Have you ever looked over the fence in early June and felt a sharp sting of garden jealousy? You are standing there staring at your tiny struggling vines and completely empty dirt. But your neighbour is already carrying baskets full of crisp, green, delicious cucumbers into their kitchen. Why does this happen? Is it pure luck, or do they know something you do not? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to expose the exact reasons why your cucumber harvest is painfully delayed and how you can flip the script this year. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will learn the unfair secrets to getting a massive cucumber harvest before the summer even truly begins. But here is the hook. Everything you thought you knew about planting early is probably wrong. In fact, rushing to put seeds in the ground is the exact reason you are failing. We are going to reveal a highly counterintuitive trick that forces your plants to explode with fruit. Are you ready to agree with me? Or do you think you already have the perfect method? Let me know in the comments. Let us dive in. Before we can fix the problem, we need to understand who we are dealing with. Cucumbers are not tough, cold weather survivors. They originally come from the hot, humid tropical regions of India. For thousands of years, these plants have evolved to thrive in absolute heat and intense moisture. They despise the cold. They absolutely panic when the temperature drops. When we try to grow them in our unpredictable spring gardens, we are basically taking a tropical jungle plant and forcing it to survive in an alien environment. This is why the timing and the environment have to be manipulated perfectly. If you just throw a seed into cold spring dirt and hope for the best, you are fighting against thousands of years of genetics. To win this game and get those early June cucumbers, we have to trick the plant into believing it is already sitting in a warm, humid tropical paradise. Now let us break down exactly how you can create this illusion and force your plants to produce early. Let us start with the absolute biggest mistake that eager gardeners make every single spring. I am talking about the illusion of warm weather and planting too early. Picture this scenario. It is late May. The sun is shining brightly. You are wearing a short-sleeved shirt outside. You think to yourself, it is definitively time to get those cucumber plants into the ground. But here is the harsh truth. The air temperature is completely lying to you. Cucumbers honestly do not care about how warm the air feels on your skin. They care exclusively about the soil temperature. If the soil is cold, the roots simply will not grow. They will just sit there in the damp earth shivering, and eventually they will start to rot. You absolutely need the soil to be at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit at a depth of 4 inches. How do you actually check this? You need to use a dedicated soil thermometer. It is a very simple tool, but it absolutely changes everything. Imagine someone forcing you to jump into a freezing cold swimming pool. That is exactly how your tender little cucumber plant feels when you shove it into cold dirt. It goes into massive shock and stops growing completely. Meanwhile, your smart neighbour actually waited for the soil to warm up properly. Because they waited, their plants did not experience shock. Their plants are growing vigorously while yours are permanently stunted. This is the exact reason why your garden is completely empty in June. So, please do not rush the process. Wait for the earth to naturally warm up. Now let us talk about picking the right player for the game. Choosing the wrong variety of seed is a massive roadblock for early harvests. If you want cucumbers in June, you cannot rely on traditional bee-pollinated varieties. Why? Because in late spring and early summer, the bee population is often not fully active yet, especially if the weather is rainy or windy. If the bees are not flying, your flowers are not getting pollinated, and those beautiful yellow blooms will just shrivel up and fall off. This brings us to a brilliant solution. You must choose parthenocarpic varieties. That is a big scientific word, but it simply means the plant produces female flowers that do not need to be pollinated by insects to grow fruit. They do it all by themselves. Think of it like a self-driving car. It just goes, without needing any outside help. If your neighbour is pulling cucumbers in June, I can almost guarantee they planted a parthenocarpic variety. It removes the weather and the insects from the equation entirely. You get a perfect seedless cucumber every single time a flower opens. So, when you are buying seeds this year, read the package carefully. If it does not say parthenocarpic or self-pollinating, put it back on the shelf. This one simple swap will completely revolutionize your early summer garden yields. Here is another secret that separates the masters from the beginners. It is all about how you prepare the seeds before they even see the dirt. Most people just rip open a packet, push the dry seed into the soil, water it, and pray. That is a terrible strategy for an early harvest. You are wasting precious days waiting for the seed coat to soften and germinate underground. The pros use the pre-soaking and sprouting method. Here is how you do it. You take your seeds and soak them in warm water for about 2 hours. Then, you place them between 2 damp paper towels and put them in a warm, dark place. On top of the refrigerator is usually a perfect spot. Within just 48 hours, you will see tiny white roots poking out of the seeds. This is a game changer. By sprouting them indoors, you guarantee a 100% success rate. You are only planting the seeds that are definitively alive and ready to grow. Plus, you have just shaved a whole week off the germination time. A week is a massive advantage when you are racing to get a harvest by June. Think of it like giving your runners a massive head start in a marathon, while your dry seeds are struggling to wake up in the garden. The sprouted seeds hit the dirt running and immediately start establishing their root systems. Let us move on to a physical trick that will blow your mind. Have you ever heard of a warm bed? This is an ancient gardening technique that acts like a biological heater for your plants. Because we know cucumbers hate cold roots, we are going to build a fire underneath them. Not a real fire, of course, but a composting fire. To do this, you dig a trench in your garden bed about 1 foot deep. You fill the bottom of this trench with fresh, uncomposted organic matter. We are talking about fresh grass clippings, green leaves, and kitchen scraps. Then, you cover this green layer with about 6 inches of rich topsoil. As that green matter breaks down and rots underground, it releases a massive amount of natural heat. It literally warms the soil from the bottom up. This means you can plant your sprouted seeds a week or 2 earlier than anyone else in your neighbourhood. The roots grow down into this incredibly warm, cosy layer, and the plant explodes with vegetative growth. It is like putting a heating pad under your bed on a cold winter night. It changes the entire comfort level. This warm bed technique completely eliminates the risk of cold soil shock. If you are wondering how your neighbour gets away with planting so early, there is a very high chance they are using a biological hotbed right under your nose. Now we must address the issue of seedling age. Many people try to cheat the system by starting their seeds indoors way too early. They think that planting a huge, tall cucumber plant into the garden will give them a faster harvest. This is a massive myth. In fact, it does the exact opposite. Cucumbers grow incredibly fast. If you leave them in a tiny plastic pot for too long, they become root-bound. The roots start circling around themselves, desperately looking for space. The plant gets stressed, and it might even stop trying to produce flowers while still sitting on your windowsill. If you take a stressed, flowering old seedling and plant it outside, it will completely stall. It will sit in the garden doing absolutely nothing for 3 weeks while it tries to recover its root system. The golden rule for cucumbers is the 25-day rule. Your seedlings should never be more than 25 days old when you transplant them outdoors. They should be young, vigorous, and just developing their second set of true leaves. At this youthful stage, they adapt to the garden soil almost instantly. They do not skip a beat. So, resist the urge to start your seeds in March. Timing is everything. A young, happy seedling will easily outgrow an old, stressed-out plant in a matter of days. Speaking of transplanting, let us talk about the transition phase. This is where dreams of June cucumbers usually go to die. You cannot just take a baby plant from the perfect, climate-controlled environment of your house and throw it directly into the harsh, windy, sunny reality of the outdoors. That is a recipe for instant death. The plant will suffer from severe sunburn and wind scorch. You have to use a process called hardening off. This is absolutely non-negotiable. About a week before you plant a plant, you take your seedlings outside and place them in a shaded, protected area for just 2 hours. Then you bring them back inside. The next day, you leave them out for 4 hours, maybe giving them a tiny bit of morning sun. You gradually increase their exposure to the wind and the sun over the course of 7 days. This process physically thickens the cells in the leaves of the plant. It builds up their natural defenses. It is like training for a marathon. You do not just run 26 miles on the first day. You build up your endurance. By the time you actually put them in the ground, they are tough, resilient, and completely unbothered by the outdoor elements. Skipping this step is a fatal error that will set your growth back by weeks, destroying any chance of an early harvest. Let us dive deeper into the actual moment of planting. There is a biological quirk about cucumbers that you absolutely must respect. They despise having their roots disturbed. They are incredibly dramatic about it. If you accidentally tear a root, or even just jostle the root ball too much, while taking it out of a plastic cup, the plant will throw a tantrum and stop growing for 2 solid weeks. This is called transplant shock. To avoid this, you need a flawless planting strategy. The best method is to start your seeds in biodegradable peat pots or paper cups. When the time comes to plant, you do not pull the plant out of the container. You just gently tear off the bottom of the paper cup and plant the whole thing directly into the ground. The roots can easily grow through the degrading paper, and they never even know they were moved. They experience zero shock. If you must use plastic cups, wait until the soil is slightly dry so the root ball slides out as one solid, undisturbed block. Dig a hole slightly larger than the root ball, place it in gently, and backfill the dirt without pressing down too hard. Treat that root system like it is made of fragile glass. This extreme gentle care guarantees that the plant continues its rapid upward growth without pausing to heal damaged roots. Even if you do everything right up to this point, the early summer nights can still be dangerously cold. This is where you need to play defense. You have to create a microclimate. A microclimate is a tiny, artificially controlled weather zone right around your plant. The cheapest and most effective way to do this is by using a cloche. You can make a brilliant homemade cloche out of a clear, plastic gallon water jug. You simply cut the bottom off the jug and take the cap off the top. Place this plastic dome right over your freshly planted cucumber seedling. Push the edges slightly into the dirt so it does not blow away. What does this do? It acts like a miniature greenhouse. During the day, the sun heats up the air inside the jug, creating a warm, humid environment that cucumbers absolutely crave. At night, it traps the heat radiating from the soil, protecting the tender plant from cold winds and sudden temperature drops. The open hole at the top allows excess heat to escape, so you do not accidentally cook your plant on a sunny day. You leave these domes on for the first 2 weeks after planting. When you finally take them off, you will find a massive, robust plant that is weeks ahead of schedule. It is a simple piece of trash transformed into a powerful gardening tool. Now we need to address a daily chore where people make a catastrophic error. Watering. Watering seems simple, right? You turn on the hose and spray the dirt. Wrong. If you are trying to grow early cucumbers, using water straight from your garden hose is a terrible idea. Hose water comes from deep underground pipes, and it is usually freezing cold. Remember what we said about cucumbers hating cold roots? If you blast your warm garden soil with freezing cold water, you instantly drop the soil temperature. You shock the root system all over again. The plant literally halts its growth to deal with the thermal shock. To get those early June harvests, you must always use warm water. Fill up a few black plastic buckets or watering cans in the morning and leave them sitting out in the full sun all day long. By the late afternoon, that water will be perfectly warm and soothing. When you pour this sun-warmed water onto the soil, the cucumber roots absorb it rapidly and happily. It keeps the soil temperature high and encourages continuous, uninterrupted growth. It might seem like a small, annoying extra step to fill buckets, but I promise you, Avoiding cold water shock is one of the most powerful secrets to accelerating your harvest time. Let us talk about feeding your hungry plants. When that young seedling first hits the garden soil, it has one primary job. It needs to build big green leaves and a massive root system as fast as possible. To do this, it needs a specific fuel. It needs nitrogen. But here is the trick. You cannot use harsh chemical fertilizers on young cucumber plants. Their roots are too sensitive, and you will easily burn them, which destroys your early harvest. Instead, you need to use a gentle, fast-acting liquid feed. The ultimate secret weapon here is actively aerated compost tea. You take a handful of rich, high-quality compost, put it in a mesh bag, and steep it in a bucket of water for 24 hours. This creates a liquid packed with gentle nutrients and millions of beneficial soil microbes. When you water your young plants with this tea, they absorb the nitrogen instantly without any risk of burning. The microbes also go to work in the soil, unlocking other nutrients and fighting off harmful root diseases. You should apply this gentle liquid feed exactly 1 week after transplanting. It gives the plant an explosive burst of green energy, building the solar panels, which are the leaves, needed to power the production of all those early cucumbers. This next block is going to sound completely crazy, but it is the most important technique for a massive early yield. We are going to talk about pruning, specifically a method called blinding the vine. When your cucumber plant starts growing, it will instinctively try to produce tiny baby cucumbers at the very bottom joints, right near the soil. Your heart will leap with joy. You will think, yes, early cucumbers. But you must fight your emotions. You have to pinch off and destroy every single flower and baby cucumber on the first 4 joints of the plant. I know it sounds painful to destroy early fruit, but here is the logic. If a young, small plant starts putting all its energy into growing the cucumber at the bottom, it stops growing upward. It stops building its root system. It puts everything into that one single fruit. By removing those bottom flowers, you force the plant to redirect its energy back into growing a massive root system and a tall, thick main vine. Once the plant reaches about 3 feet tall, it will be incredibly strong. Then you let it start producing fruit. Because the plant is now huge and powerful, it will pump out dozens of cucumbers simultaneously. You sacrifice one early tiny cucumber to gain baskets full of them just a week later. Do not be greedy early on. Let us discuss the blanket of the garden, mulching. If you leave the soil completely bare around your cucumber plants, you're asking for trouble. Bare soil dries out rapidly under the hot sun, causing the roots to dehydrate. Then, when it rains, the bare soil turns to mud and splashes fungal spores directly onto the bottom leaves, causing devastating diseases that will wipe out your crop before June even arrives. To stop this, you must apply a thick layer of organic mulch. Clean straw or dried grass clippings are absolutely perfect for this. Lay down a solid 3-inch layer of straw all around the base of your plants. This mulch acts as a fantastic insulator. It traps the warmth in the soil overnight, and it acts as a shade to keep the roots cool during extreme midday heat spikes. Most importantly, it completely stops soil from splashing onto the leaves during a rainstorm. It keeps the plant clean and healthy. Plus, as the straw slowly breaks down, it feeds the soil worms and microbes. Mulching is not just about making the garden look neat. It is a critical defense mechanism that stabilizes the environment, allowing your cucumbers to focus purely on rapid growth rather than fighting off stress and disease. Airflow is a silent killer in the garden that nobody talks about until it is too late. Many beginners try to maximize their harvest by planting their cucumbers extremely close together. They think more plants equals more food. This is a fatal mistake. When you crowd cucumber plants, their large leaves overlap and create a dark, damp, stagnant canopy. This is the absolute perfect breeding ground for powdery mildew, a white fungal disease that will destroy the leaves and stop all fruit production instantly. To get early cucumbers, you need healthy leaves working at maximum capacity. You must give them breathing room. Plant them at least 18 inches apart. This spacing allows the wind to blow freely between the plants, drying off the morning dew quickly. Dry leaves cannot grow fungus. It also allows sunlight to penetrate deep into the canopy, reaching the lower leaves and warming the soil. Good airflow keeps the plant vibrant and energetic. Think of it like being in a crowded, stuffy room versus standing on a breezy balcony. Where do you feel more energized? Your plants feel the exact same way. Give them space to stretch out, breathe, and soak up the sun. The yield from one healthy, well-spaced plant will always beat 3 sick, crowded plants. If you want an early harvest, you have to get your plants off the ground. Letting cucumbers crawl randomly across the dirt is a massive mistake. When cucumbers sit on wet soil, they rot. Pests like slugs and pillbugs have easy access to them, eating holes in your precious early harvest. Furthermore, the leaves on the ground get dirty and diseased easily. The solution is vertical gardening. You absolutely must build a sturdy trellis. You can use cattle panels, netting, or a simple bamboo teepee. As the cucumber vine grows, gently tie it to the trellis, training it to climb upward. Why is this a secret for early growth? Because the air temperature a few feet off the ground is actually warmer and more stable than right on the soil surface. By lifting the plant into the air, you are exposing the leaves to maximum sunlight from all angles. The plant photosynthesizes much faster, creating more energy. The hanging cucumbers grow perfectly straight and clean, untouched by soil pests. Trellising also makes harvesting a breeze. You can easily spot the cucumbers hiding under the leaves when they are at eye level. If you want professional results and June harvests, your plants must climb towards the sky. Let us destroy a very common myth that drowns early harvests. The myth of excessive watering. Because cucumbers are made mostly of water, people assume they need to be flooded every single day. This is a disaster. Cucumber roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. If you keep the soil constantly soggy and muddy, you literally suffocate the roots. They cannot breathe, they begin to rot, and the plant turns a sickly yellow colour. A yellow plant will not produce fruit in June. You need to master the art of deep, infrequent watering. How do you know when to water? Use your finger. Stick your index finger into the soil, up to your second knuckle. If it feels wet or damp, do not water. Walk away. If it feels completely dry at that depth, then it is time to water. When you do water, soak the base of the plant deeply and thoroughly, and then do not water again for several days. This forces the roots to dive deep into the earth, searching for moisture, creating a massive drought-resistant root system. A plant with a deep root system is strong, stable, and capable of pulling up massive amounts of nutrients to fuel rapid fruit production. Stop drowning your plants with daily shallow sprinkles. Have you ever fertilized your plants, but they still look pale and weak? You might be experiencing nutrient lockout. This ties directly back to temperature. You can pour all the expensive organic fertilizer in the world onto your soil. But if the soil is too cold, the plant simply cannot absorb it. The biological pathways in the roots shut down in cold temperatures. The nutrients are sitting right there in the dirt, but the plant is starving to death. This is why the warm bed technique and the plastic cloches we discussed earlier are so vital. By keeping the soil temperature elevated, you ensure that the plant's digestive system is wide open and functioning. Phosphorus, which is critical for flower and fruit development, is especially sensitive to cold soils. If your plants are showing purple tinges on the leaves, they are locked out of phosphorus due to cold dirt. You must focus on warming the soil first before you start dumping more fertilizer on top. Fix the environment and the plant will naturally start eating again. Understanding this invisible chemistry is what separates the frustrated novice from the master gardener pulling early June harvests. Early spring is a dangerous time for tender young plants. It is prime time for the garden villains. Slugs, snails, and aphids are waking up from winter, and they are starving. Your fresh, green cucumber seedlings look like a gourmet buffet to them. If a slug eats the growing tip of your small vine, the plant is basically dead. You lose weeks of time. You must set up a defensive perimeter from day one. Do not wait for the damage to happen. A very simple and organic method is to use diatomaceous earth. It is a natural white powder made from crushed, fossilized shells. You sprinkle a solid ring of this powder on the dry soil around the base of your plants. To a soft-bodied slug, crawling over this powder is like crawling over broken glass. They will not cross it. For aphids, which suck the sap out of the leaves and stunt growth, you need to check the undersides of the leaves every few days. If you see tiny green bugs, immediately spray them with a gentle mixture of water and a few drops of natural dish soap. This suffocates the aphids instantly without harming the plant. Being proactive with pest control ensures your plants spend their energy growing cucumbers, not recovering from violent bug attacks. We need to talk about emergency weather protocols. You can do everything perfectly, but Mother Nature loves to throw a curveball. A sudden, unexpected late frost in May can obliterate your entire cucumber crop in a single night. You go to sleep with beautiful green vines and wake up to black, mushy, dead plants. You must be prepared to act fast. You need to watch the weather forecast obsessively. If the nighttime temperature is predicted to drop below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, you must cover your plants. Do not rely on the plastic jugs we talked about earlier for a hard frost. You need something thicker. Keep a stash of old thick blankets, heavy towels, or specialised floating row covers in your shed. Before the sun goes down, completely cover your trellises and plants. The trick is to ensure the blanket touches the ground all the way around, trapping the residual heat of the earth inside the tent. For extra protection, place a few jugs filled with hot water under the blanket right next to the plants. They will radiate heat slowly throughout the freezing night. In the morning, as soon as the sun comes up and it warms up, immediately remove the blankets so the plants do not overheat. One night of vigilance saves your entire June harvest. Here is a massive psychological hurdle you must overcome to get continuous early harvests. You have to pick the cucumbers when they are small. So many people leave that first cucumber on the vine, watching it grow bigger and bigger. They want to show off a giant, massive cucumber to their friends. This is the worst thing you can do. The ultimate goal of a cucumber plant is not to make you food. Its goal is to make mature seeds to reproduce. If you leave a cucumber on the vine until it is huge and yellowing, the plant thinks its job is done. It has successfully made mature seeds. It sends a chemical signal to the rest of the vine to stop producing new flowers. The factory completely shuts down. To keep the factory pumping, you must harvest aggressively. Pick those early cucumbers when they're only 5 or 6 inches long. They are crisp, sweet, and seedless at this stage. By removing the fruit early, the plant goes into a panic. It says, "Oh no, my seeds are gone. I need to make more." It immediately produces a massive flush of new female flowers to try again. The more you pick, the more the plant produces. This continuous picking cycle is the ultimate engine for a heavy June harvest. The final piece of the puzzle is the easiest to say but the hardest to do. It is absolute consistency. The garden is not a place you visit only on the weekends. If you want early, spectacular results, you must walk your garden every single day. I call it the morning patrol. Take your coffee cup and walk out there at sunrise. Look at the leaves. Are they bright green and pointing up toward the sun? That means they are happy. Are they drooping? Check the soil moisture. Do you see a yellow spot? You might have splashed water on the leaves yesterday. Look closely at the stems. Are there any pests hiding? You have to train your eyes to catch tiny problems before they become catastrophic garden-destroying disasters. A small patch of powdery mildew can be wiped off with a damp cloth on a Tuesday. By Saturday, it will have consumed the entire plant. The people who are harvesting massive amounts of cucumbers in June are not necessarily smarter than you. They are simply more observant. They are consistently present. They understand that the garden is a living, breathing system that needs daily attention. Make the morning patrol your new favourite habit, and your plants will reward you with an absolute avalanche of early summer fruit. So, let us bring it all together. The mystery of the empty June garden is not really a mystery at all. It boils down to respecting the tropical nature of the cucumber. We learned that the air temperature is a liar, and planting into cold soil is the ultimate kiss of death. But the biggest plot twist of all, to get a massive harvest, you actually have to brutally pinch off the first baby cucumbers to force the plant to build a massive, powerful root system. It feels wrong, but it works like magic. Combine that with warm water, biological hotbeds, and daily observation, and you have the blueprint for dominating your garden this year. Stop fighting the plant and start tricking it into thriving. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If you are ready to finally get that massive June harvest, smash that subscribe button right now so you do not miss our next advanced gardening guide. Hit the like button if you learnt something new today. And now I want to hear from you. What specific variety of cucumber are you going to plant this year after watching this video? Drop the name in the comments below and let us start a conversation. Happy gardening, and I will see you in the next one.